Ladies and gentlemen, initially in today's video, we're going to touch on the Oscars a little bit. We also have some more Joker 2 updates as we get to see Lady Gaga on the set of Joker Folie à Deux. Not to mention, we also have some DC Studios updates from James Gunn with Wonder Woman, also James Gunn debunking Grace Randolph once again, and a little bit more. I think there's a little tidbit with Blue Beetle, so a little bit of a news roundup today. By the time you're seeing this video, I should be watching Shazam! Fury of the Gods a little bit early in preparation for my review, and this is why I wanted to say this for those watching this, those who have actually clicked on this video. Do keep an eye out for my Shazam no spoilers review, I believe going up Wednesday, so that should be tomorrow from when this video is posting, so I hope you guys look forward to that. But let's get into today's first topic, the Oscars. Now, you know, it's fantastic, absolutely fantastic seeing Brendan Fraser win Best Actor, Michelle Yeoh as Best Actress, Ke Huy Quan in the Best Supporting Role. This is all the stuff that I think a lot of us wanted to see. But of course, you know, here on the channel, we're going to talk about The Batman very briefly. So The Batman was nominated for the Oscars of visual effects, makeup and hairstyling, as well as sound. Now again, I would absolutely love your opinions here. Feel free to leave them down in the comments below. Feel free to disagree with me, agree with me, or whatever. But as much as I'm really over the moon about Brendan Fraser winning Best Actor for The Whale, and I'm really going to try and not sound biased here, but I do think that the makeup for The Batman, particularly with Colin Farrell's Oz Cobblepot, maybe should have got the win when you put it up against that of what won Best Makeup and Hairstyling, and that was The Whale as well. So when I look at The Whale, again, no disagreements for Brendan Fraser winning Best Actor or anything, but the categories that The Batman got nominated for is one thing, and we're going to talk about that for a second. But the one thing I can look at, you know, say what you will about sound, Top Gun Maverick won that. Best Visual Effects, I have absolutely no issue with Avatar winning that one. Did people really think that The Batman would win in Best Visual Effects with the other nominees, and one of them being Avatar, The Way of Water? But one thing that I will say is the best makeup, you know, what I will say is Brendan Fraser and the makeup in that with his bodysuit and you know, the face piece that he had, the headpiece, that was all incredible. But for me, and you can call this bias or not, but I do feel like the unrecognizable Colin Farrell underneath the makeup that Mike Marino did for Oz Cobblepot does come out slightly a bit more on top for me. So that's my opinion on what it was nominated for, the Batman movie that is, but I do think that it was snubbed for the nominations of Best Cinematography and Original Score. Now, Original Score, I feel like can be debated a bit more, even though I do think that the score for The Batman by Michael Giacchino it is really, 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 really good. But Best Cinematography, the fact that it wasn't even nominated for that is, again, I'm really trying to not sound biased right now, because I can imagine some people watching this being like, oh, Boba, of course you're saying this about The Batman. But I'm not the only one saying this. How about Roger Deakins himself? And this is what he had to say about the nominations for the Oscars with regards to The Batman. So the Best Cinematography hasn't been nominated. It's The Batman. That's the best work in my view. The picture should have been a contender in that category. The reason it wasn't is pure and simple snobbery. There's this unfair tendency to avoid the Marvel universe and the other popular universes. No surprise, I really do agree with that. Now, it's not like the Oscars don't ever entertain the comic book space, because evidently they have in the past, but I do agree with what Roger Deakins says here, because it is a little bit of a weird thing. The cinematography for The Batman, I would say as objective as I can be, is most certainly a nomination. And to think of how Greg Fraser, the same guy who did the cinematography for Dune, of which won that Oscar for Best Cinematography, but then The Batman, with also this very tremendous cinematography, wasn't even so much as nominated. it's just baffling to me. Now, you can say that Dune has better cinematography under Greg Fraser's work than his own work on the Batman. I would say that they're both up there. They're gorgeously shot movies, both of them. The attention to detail in every single scene is just, it's so much extra effort. Again, it should have been nominated. It really should have been. Maybe sci-fi has a little bit, teeny tiny bit more of a leeway than that of the comic book space, so I don't know if that's why Dune got a bit more recognition with Greg Fraser's cinematography there, and the Batman is, oh, there's a comic book movie, clearly great cinematography, but we're not going to nominate that one. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on this. Let me know what you think of the Oscars anyway, the winners, the categories, but also the lack of nominations potentially for that of the Batman. Alright, so up next is Joker 2, or Joker Folie à Deux, and as you guys know, there has been some set photos coming out the past week or so. We've already covered that in one dedicated video with Joaquin Phoenix's Arthur seemingly running away from two other clowns, one of them being in natural Joker makeup, the other one being in the clown mask, and we've had our first look at Harley Quinn technically from Lady Gaga or Todd Phillips themselves, you know, posting that image on Instagram on Valentine's Day, but now we've actually got our first set photo of Lady Gaga, and as I'm looking at it on my screen, it doesn't seem like there's too much to say here other than just getting another look at what her character looks like in the movie, what her demeanor is, you know, the way the hair, the makeup, the costume department dress this Harleen Quinzel character. But there is one or two more things to slightly say. So, you know, interestingly, in this video attached here to this Batman News article, she seemingly smashes in this store window, which I believe is housing some TVs on display, and she just kind of takes it. Initially, I thought it was a toaster, but then you can see like the frame rate difference of the TV just constantly spinning. So I have no idea if she's seeing something on the TV that annoys her, and she just decides to break the store window and just take it out, literally, in a bit of an impulsive behavior. Now, there have been rumors floating around that Gaga's Harley Quinn could just be a patient at Arkham rather than a psychiatrist/therapist working there, but just a patient like that of Arthur. But this is to be stressed. That is a rumor. Take it with a huge grain of salt. It could literally be BS for all we know. But hypothetically, if that was true for a second, in terms of this video, would that mean that she's escaped, like perhaps Arthur has in those set photos we spoke about the other day of him running down the street of Gotham with two other seeming Jokers chasing him? Or, you know, again, hypothetically, if it's true that she is a patient, could this be some context scenes of her in Gotham before she gets committed to Arkham? Because with that rumor, I went with the theory of, okay, let's entertain that for a second if she is a patient like Arthur as well, rather than them going the therapist angle to the Joker in Arkham and then her getting seduced and whatnot, and the Mad Love adaptation. She could have actually been a therapist and a psychiatrist, but then did some bad things, perhaps abused patients, I don't know, but then ended up getting committed herself, even though she was a therapist. But again, you can argue that they could show parts of her life beforehand if it is indeed true that she is a patient in Arkham with Joker in the movie. Or, finally, the whole patient rumor might not be true at all whatsoever, and this could just be Harleen Quinzel in Gotham, outside of her work, outside of her job as a therapist in Arkham, but she clearly still has some issues if she's smashing in the store window and just taking a TV. You know, other ideas are that it'd be pretty interesting regardless if you believe the rumor or not. If she starts hallucinating or seeing something on that TV screen, perhaps Arthur is already getting in her head and she's seeing him on the TV screen. Who knows? These set photos, you know, it's cool to see, but there's not so much you can take out of it, and I believe I've already exhausted that one. So let me know your ideas and what you think of Lady Gaga's look as, and I say Harleen Quinzel because if the movie is going down the Mad Love route, obviously she becomes Harley Quinn, and at this point she seems to be more of a Harleen rather than a fully converted Harley. Up next in the DC Studios side of news, we have a couple of tidbits here, starting with James Gunn. So when a fan here, as you can see, quote-tweeted James Gunn's original tweet of saying, agreed, working on it, what was it that he said that to? So a fan said that Diana is a character with such a rich cast, with so much untapped potential and stories, it's beyond past time for it to be explored, and hashtagging it Wonder Woman animated series. So he said, agreed, working on it with regards to that sentiment there about Diana in the DC universe and what this new leadership could bring. Now, another fan quote tweeted James Gunn's agreed, working on it, by saying that they don't think they're working on an animated show, they're working on expanding the mythos such as Paradise Lost, etc. And Paradise Lost, from what we understand, is a prequel, like it's set a few thousand years potentially before the present day kind of Wonder Woman, which again is leaving the question open to, okay, so is Gal Gadot still going to be Wonder Woman? Because Paradise Lost could technically still work with that if it's set in the past. But Gunn replied to this quote tweet of his tweet saying, no, we're working on getting Wonder Woman into more animation. I agree, there hasn't been enough of her in that area, and was one of the first things that I brought up to the animation folks. So this is interesting because James Gunn, debunked quite a while back a story or a report saying that Wonder Woman wouldn't be involved in the first 3 years of the DCU. He literally said that wasn't true. Yet, on the plan that we've seen so far with Superman Legacy, The Authority, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, Brave and the Bold, like all of these films start around 2025 with Superman Legacy, and I guess Waller slightly before that, maybe 2024. But you see the timeline. And, Brave and the Bold might come out 2026, 2027, who knows? But it's like the next few years, and there is no Wonder Woman there. But that doesn't mean that he was lying. It could be that we might see Wonder Woman in animation first. And that would be canonical, because don't forget, James Gunn has explicitly said the same actor playing Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, you name it, will be the same actor reprising their role in voicing lines in animation, the video games, the HBO series, so the HBO Lantern show, the same lanterns will be the canonical lanterns in the video games and animations and the movies. So maybe, just maybe, we could see Wonder Woman in animation first. Because we don't have any series or movie with her featured in it, unless you want to count her appearing in Paradise Lost. So I'm not sure, but again, this begs the question, will Gal Gadot be voicing the Wonder Woman lines in what he's brought up to the animation folks? Because this seems to be quite a priority for him to he's the big cheese. Like, he's now said, it's one of the first things I've brought up to them, and it is something I agree with. There hasn't been enough of her in that area. So I don't know. I just found this interesting, and I wanted to bring it to you so you can give your thoughts down below. And in some other James Gunn DC news, but also mixed in with a bit of Grace Randolph. So Grace Randolph, once again, put out a scoop, and James Gunn shut it down. Now, I'm not saying she gets everything wrong, because I know there's quite a few, solid Grace Randolph fans out there, and there's nothing wrong with that. I do want to make that clear. Like, there's never any hate here, but when specifically talking about her scoops, I feel very confident in saying that you can't take her reliably. That there's a whole literal documented picture list of scoops that have been wrong and discounted by directors like James Gunn and other people as well. So again, nothing against her content whenever I talk about stuff like this, because I know some people, I don't know, get offended when I do. I'm just trying to objectively look at what does get scooped right and what gets scooped wrong. So here, among Tom King revealing that James Gunn was not only writing the Superman Legacy movie, but also directing it, of, which we all saw coming anyway, which was recent news. Grace also put it out there that James Gunn had sent out a casting call for Superman Legacy for actors aged around 20 to 30 years old with plans to film early 2024. And so, a fan of Grace Randolph's, or maybe not, and just heard it out there, but this is the danger, and what frustrates me sometimes with false scoops. You get so many, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of impressionable subscribers or followers who might take your, scoop and run with it as if it's legit because they believe your position or whatever. And this is why I do think it's important for James Gunn to do what he does on Twitter sometimes, because otherwise you have a narrative. The best example I want to lead with is if he didn't come out and debunk that James Gunn and Peter Safran were putting the Batman into the DCU, we would have had a continued 2 or 3 months or so with fans telling me every day that that was happening. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I felt like instinctually it wasn't. James Gunn put it out there that it wasn't, so it squashed it. You wouldn't have that discourse on Twitter or social media or online or whatever being like, yeah, told you, he's joining the DCU, Pattinson's going to be merged. It's so important for stuff like this to be dispelled when it can, for the reason of what I said, hundreds of thousands of people potentially believing something, having expectations, then maybe being disappointed or being happy. It's best to kill these things early. So I do appreciate what he does here. And in true debunking fashion, he replied by saying, no, a casting director hasn't even been hired. So interesting stuff there. All while Superman Legacy is quite far into development, I think a lot further than what people realize, which is maybe what made this rumor sound plausible to a lot of people in the first place, actually, because Superman Legacy has been written since last August. You know, James Gunn said he's quite far into the script. He must have a bloody solid idea that they are very close, actually, to the stage of kicking off the, whole who do we actually want to cast, or maybe we want to get that ball rolling soon. But, the whole 20 to 30 years old thing, it might be a bit too young, because as James Gunn said recently, well, it wasn't so recently, a few weeks ago now, with regards to Superman's age, everyone kept saying to him, Superman's going to be like 25 years old. Is that really true? Batman's only going to be like 27. How does that make sense with Damian Wayne coming into his life? He said, yeah, but people are speculating about both ages. All I ever said was Superman was younger than his 40s, and Batman might be a couple of years older than Superman. And, when you take that into account, well, if all he ever said was Superman was younger than his 40s, Superman could be like 39, and that means he would be younger than his 40s. Now, I don't think that Superman's going to be 39, but at the same time, I don't think that Superman's going to be 24, 25. I think the best age rating we'll get is 28 to like 33-ish. I'm hoping for around there. And so lastly, for this video, a very small update, and it is to do with Blue Beetle. And I don't really know what I'm looking at here. So Blue Beetle Updates posted this to Twitter after Bathan asked them, saying, Blue Beetle news, got anything to share? Hopefully there is a trailer soon. I agree. Blue Beetle has been cooking for a while. I'm excited for the potential of this movie. A big reason for this, by the way, is because it can actually work in the DCU, because even though it was set in the DCEU originally, it is a very self-contained superhero origin story movie that isn't beholden nor references really the bigger DCEU things. So that's why post-Flash movie reset in the timeline, Blue Beetle is the first movie that releases after Barry in the Flash movie tries to fix things and launches us into this new DCU. So again, it is very self-contained and can work in that of the new DCU. And here we have Blue Beetle Updates replying to that saying, well, all I can share is this. Credit to Flash Film News for this. Now, I do believe this is legit because Flash Film News have very legit things just like this. A lot of promotional artwork and images for like the Flash movie, for example. This has been proved time and time again. And to me, while this isn't like mind-blowing, it's another look at the Blue Beetle suit, of which we've seen on set. I'm guessing that it's going to look fantastic, obviously, with the sheen of the screen applied to that as well. It got a very positive reaction when people saw the Blue Beetle suit on set initially, but then imagine it with like the visual effects and stuff like that. So this looks like a little snapshot or screenshot or something of a banner, maybe some kind of promotional artwork for the movie. To be honest, it kind of looks like a little banner image for marketing, but I could be completely wrong. There's nothing really too much more to say about this other than don't forget, bookmark Blue Beetle. We should be hearing more about it in the coming weeks or months, to be honest. It's been cooking for a while. I think we could get our very first teaser trailer not so far away, hopefully. I could be wrong, but the estimation is surrounding the fact that we haven't really had anything other than a poster and some set photos, which was a while ago, quite a while ago. So, any day now we should be hearing more about this movie, and I'm particularly interested in that. But let me know if you're excited for it. I know a lot of people's buzz for these, remaining DCEU films are kind of low, but one thing I'll say to maybe attempt to readjust some people's perspectives, if you have that perspective in the first place, is that, as I said, the DCEU Blue Beetle film in of itself can technically work as low-key the first DCU project, only because of what I said with how, yes, it was in the DCEU, but it really doesn't try hard to connect to it at all. So when you think of Blue Beetle, and we've got a kind of soft rebooted retconned DCU coming our way, this can easily slip in there. So really do look at it as, okay, here's a fun upcoming movie for a character we haven't seen in live action on the big screen before, Blue Beetle, and it could be really kick-ass. But let me know, maybe you still think, but I still don't care. But maybe you think, maybe you're right. Maybe this could actually be so self-contained that it could work in the new DCU. And in of itself. It's a superhero origin story, so it's not like it needs to connect to Ben Affleck's Batman and Aquaman and everything like that. And of course, let me know your thoughts on everything else that we just spoke about. Would really appreciate your insight on what you thought about the Oscars situation, the Lady Gaga stuff, the James Gunn Wonder Woman animation stuff, what you think could be going on there with that character, of course, the debunking stuff, and whatever else I forgot to mention. And as always, if you want to support this channel, the best thing you can do is by hitting that like button. I mean, you've already watched the video. Thank you for doing that. That helps me out a bunch as well. But if you can go the extra mile, hit the like button, maybe consider subscribing if you found yourself coming back here time and time again, and you actually haven't hit that subscribe button. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you people of the DCU in the next video. Goodbye.